You've tuned into InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello everyone and welcome to the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, where you check in for your dose of stigma breaking, empowerment building, humor filling, life hacks and motivation for all of the medically adultish young people in life. I'm your host Dominique Vale, the founder of InvisiYouth, and it's been a few weeks since you've seen us or heard us if you're watching us on our YouTube channel or listening to our audio podcasts. That's for a couple reasons, and I'll get to tell you about one and a little sneak peek of it, which you'll get to hear about a little after this episode airs. One, I was traveling a bit, and that'll be on our social media pages. And the second reason I can give you a tiny sneak peek of now, we will be launching a new virtual program coming out a week after this episode airs. And if you've been checking in with InvisiYouth on social media and on our Instagram, you'll definitely be seeing that we have a lot going on. And I've been posting little sneak peeks, and our team and our social media volunteers have been posting some little tidbits of what is going to be joining the video podcast series as a new virtual program. So, getting that housework out of the way, we're going to introduce what is episode 9 of the So You've Got a Diagnosis, Now What?, where we are interviewing special guest experts from around the world who have built incredible careers while balancing chronic illness or disability, and they will be giving the insiders trade secrets on how and you guys can do that while looking for jobs and going to university. So our guest for today, I am so excited to have on, and I know my team's so excited we were able to get her on too. She is our celebrity ambassador from the UK. It's British actress and disability activist Melissa Johns. Whether you've seen her on TV as Imogen on ITV's hit soap Coronation Street, or where she's currently on the stage playing Emilia in OthelloMacbeth, which is at Home Theatre in Manchester and will be at the Lyric Hammersmith in London from October 5th to November 3rd, Melissa has always been a change maker. She was born without a right arm and forearm, so she has been using her activism and her acting abilities to break barriers. She's a graduate from the East 15 Acting School in London and has fused her activism and acting chops into her two passions together. You could also know that Melissa's been an actress in all scopes and forms. She's been a drama teacher with a former co-star of Faye Brooks' Fates Academy in Manchester, and she's co-founder to a non-profit in England called TripleC with another Corey co-star, Shirley Houston. TripleC is a disability-led organization in England that uses drama workshops to enhance the lives of people living with disabilities. So we absolutely love the work that she does, philanthropic as well. And this year, just another plug of all of the amazing things that Melissa does, she recently became one of GIC's Outstanding Young People of the World for her breaking barriers for young adults to make sure they don't feel like they should hide limb difference or disabilities, but rather encouraging them through empowerment and their independence. So, guys, we want to welcome Melissa to the show. Melissa, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're so excited to get you on. You're our one. We've had some of our global brand leaders on, and you're our first celebrity ambassador that we get to have on as our guest of the show. So I'm so excited for that. So we're just gonna jump right in to let our guests get to know you a little bit more in a fun segment called Rapid Fire Roundup.
Rapid Fire Round.
Alright guys, Rapid Fire Roundup is a super fun, kind of quirky section of our show where we go through quick fun sections that allow you to get to know our guest. Insightful, quirky, interesting questions. They are going to be on their toes and coming up with the first thing that's on their mind. So, alright Melissa, we're going to go speed through these real quick. So, okay. What is something you always buy at the food store?
Avocados.
What animal would you be?
A dolphin.
I love that. What superpower would you have?
Teleportation.
Oh, I love that. 3 words to describe yourself.
Oh, determined, chatty, loyal.
Oh, I love it. If you talk in your sleep, what do you think you say?
I really want a snack.
When you dance, people would describe me as...
Oh, my dad.
I love it. What would be your dream celebrity to meet?
Oh my gosh, I can't think of the actress's name. That's so bad. Scully from X-Files.
Okay, cool.
Anderson. What's her name?
I'm trying to think. I know exactly who you're talking about. I have the face right in my head.
I know.
God. Oh God, this is horrible. If you could join a TV cast, which one would you join?
Oh gosh, that's really hard. I would bring a British version of Friends to the UK, and I would be in Friends.
Oh, well, who would you be if you could pick a Friends character then?
I think I'm a mixture between Monica and Rachel.
I love it. I always joke that I would probably be a Monica and a Chandler put together, actually. What would be your most interesting or weirdest thing that you carry in your purse?
A sewing kit, because I can't actually sew, but my family always thought it was really important to have one, and I can't sew, so it's really random and doesn't actually mean anything.
What would be the favorite character you've played so far?
I must say probably theatre, definitely the character I'm playing at the moment, Emilia from Othello.
I love it. What would be the best costume you've worn, whether for a party or holiday or even on stage?
The last show I was in, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I played Candy, and she had the most incredible 60s outfits, and I love the 60s. That's my fashion.
That sounds so cool. Would you say you're a morning bird or night owl?
I think I peak at about 2 p.m. and then fall at about 4 p.m.
Oh, so you're like an afternoon bird then.
Yes.
And then what's the last time you've worked with charity? Something you've done?
I randomly got sort of dragged into being an auctioneer. I'd never done it in my life, and then ended up doing like 4 in a row a few months back at charity events. The last one was for Reach Charity, which are for children born with upper limb disabilities, and I was their charity auctioneer. So if you ever need a charity auctioneer, apparently that's now on my CV. So.
Your new skills added to the bottom of your CV. I love it. I love it. So you just rapidly finished the rapid fire roundup with that one. There you go.
I shocked myself.
I know. So now we're going to dive right into another segment of ours, and this is Rebel Game Changer Status.
Rebel Game Changer Status.
All right, Rebel Game Changer Status. You guys know, if you've been with the show for a while, what this is, but this is our step-by-step guide to becoming an advocate, activist, and what InvisiYouth likes to call them, Rebel Game Changers. Pretty much what Melissa does and why we adored her when we first met her. So this is where we get to discuss actions of how you get to build waves in a community while building a career, and pretty much how you can balance that work-health struggle with different sorts of challenges and hurdles that might come your way. So, Melissa, one of the first questions I wanted to ask was, through your whole process of going to an acting school and auditioning and even teaching drama too, what are some stigmas or misconceptions that oftentimes you've had to come in front with?
I think that because disability is so underrepresented on screens and stages, you know, it's hard enough to be an actor anyway. You already need people to like what you do. Mm-hmm. But when you have a disability, because people are so not used to seeing it, you have that extra barrier, because suddenly somebody has to go, okay, I have to be okay with her disability, and then I have to actually accept her for, being an actor. So obviously, that's something we want to break down massively. We want to make it so that disability is represented on all mediums, so that when people do come across it at auditions, in drama school, young people being taught by people with disabilities, the acceptance and the celebration of the uniqueness of that person kind of is there straight away, and then we don't have such a barrier to kind of overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head, really, that a lot of the stigma half the time comes from that, because if you don't see the disability, it's not normalized. So a lot of times people on the other end are just sort of immediately, if it's a physical difference or a physical illness that you might need adaptive equipment, or you might have a PICC line or port in, that it does because it's not something they commonly see on their screens or anything, that a lot of times it becomes a stigma that that they don't know how to handle. But do you feel like when you've gone through different auditions or jobs that even sort of fellow cast members, it sort of takes them a minute they think that there's like a lack of capability at times that you have to add?
I guess it's really difficult because sometimes that could just be in my own head because of, of having, when you've had experiences like that, sometimes it can even be paranoia, and you can think, they could be incredibly accepting. They might have relatives that have disabilities, best friends that have disabilities, but because of the experiences you've already faced, you can't help but sometimes think, I really hope that person doesn't think that I'm less capable.
Yeah.
And, for many years of my life, I hid my arm up until I was about sort of 26, because I was so desperate for people to get to know me first. So, some people didn't know until the first few hours. I would always be in control of it. But I was this absolute master of manipulation. And, I had to tell my own boyfriend on our third date, because I just worked out the most incredible ways of making it look like I had two arms. And I would, I'd know what to wear, how to sit, how to stand, how to position myself. And the main reason that I did that was because I just so desperately wanted someone to get to know me before they had any judgments. Obviously, that's changed a lot now because I realised that although that was quite effective, that's, I wasn't doing myself any favours and all of the wonderful disabled people out there any favours. So I think now it's more about finding the balance of going, okay, if I am the first person with one arm that you've ever met, I want to be able to leave, a nice, like anybody, when you meet new people, you want to leave a nice blueprint on them. And so I think it's about finding the balance between going, I want to educate you so that you have a better knowledge of disability, but I also don't want you to just remember me because I was that person that told you about disability. So I think sometimes when you have a disability or a chronic illness, like you end up talking about it so much because, they've got questions and that's great. And that's, that's wonderful that we can kind of help break down those barriers that people might be facing. However, you don't want to make that all you talk about because, apart from having one arm, like, I've got a few other things going on for me, hopefully. So.
It did. Matt, your boyfriend went through 3 dates before you actually had to tell him, so you were entertaining enough by yourself without that being a conversation for 3 of your dates before that became an actual topic too.
Absolutely. And that's what I always used to love to hear. People would always go, oh my gosh, I didn't notice because I was too busy listening to you. And I was like, this is what I'm trying to say, like...
No, absolutely. And that, so for you, a lot of times, do you think that when it came to even casting for you, that it was...
You thought it or not, it just...
Yeah. Oh. Melissa?
Hello?
Okay. You froze a little bit. I heard you. I heard you go in and out, and I was like, "Oh, is she pulling out an acting trick?" Oh, there we go. We're good. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go in the next question. Okay.
Cool.
So with that, a lot of times with casting, have you felt that the disability or physical difference has sort of played a role in either being written into character, or they would sort of coin it as what we like to see as people saying like the inspirational role of sort of I fight adversity, and that has it ever been in your casting scenario that people might want to put it in?
Put it in, yeah. I think that my career has fallen at a really interesting time. A few years back when I was a lot younger, I think it would have been a different story. But I think that it's a really exciting time at the moment, and there are so many people out there that are wanting to change this industry and give disability the representation that it deserves. What we're trying to obviously sway away from is for that being a tick box. So there are certain castings that you go to and you just know, you go, I know that you have a box that you have to tick where you have to see a certain amount of disabled actors, and I just know that I'm one of them. And, you then have to really get that out of your mind sometimes. You really have to go, okay, but it might not be. But as I say, that there are a few where you just know the way that they are with you. They ask lots of questions about it, and you just think, you're here to judge me on my acting, not on my disability. saying that, in the last 2 years, I think there's been a real shift. With Coronation Street, it was only non-disabled people that were kind of considered for it. It was never written as a disabled role. And when I was cast, they just sort of said, look, do you mind if we, in one of the episodes, maybe make reference to it just once, just to kind of, I guess just cement the fact that people will go, yeah, she has got one arm and she's okay with it, and everyone else should be. So we just kind of wrote a couple of extra lines in. And I mean, I actually have never ever played in my career yet a disabled character.
Okay.
Which is something that I think has kind of been a bit of a foundation for me, because it's really made me realise that I have brought my disability to a character, but as of yet, I've never been put up for, a character that's meant to have a disability, which I think is a huge breakthrough. I mean, maybe that also says that we're not writing enough stories about people with disabilities. But for me, it's always been something that I choose whether to bring to the character or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love even when you mentioned Coronation Street, because how we and my team found out about you was even when you got announced as casted for that role while you were still on Corey, and being that constantly hearing so many people going, she's in the first episode, they're not even mentioning it. And it was actually exciting for them. And that's what sort of piqued my team's interest of going, who is this actress? Because of just sort of hearing that it was just part of who you are playing the character, and it wasn't sort of a storyline brought in. So, I mean, that was amazing to see such a powerhouse soap that I knew so many of our British young adults watch all the time, that they were super excited about too, and everything when you got into that. So kind of going off of that too, what would be some sort of advice from your experience that you were able to sort of challenge stigmas when going into auditions or in acting with your fellow peers? What would be some advice you'd give?
I think just to remember that when you are cast as something, you didn't get that because you're a charity. You got it on merit. You got it because you're a good actor. And that's something I've really had to learn, because at the beginning I kept thinking, oh gosh, maybe they just felt sorry for me. This industry doesn't feel sorry for people. If they don't want you, you're not going to get it. And so I think, just remembering your own self-worth, and that you got a part because you were meant to have that part. And there's been time access wise where I've really needed to ask a favour for something, and when I was a lot younger, I would think, oh, I better not ask for it, I don't want to seem like a nuisance. But actually, ask for what you need. Remember that you got there the same as everybody else, and you were chosen because actually you bring something to a role that nobody else can. What's so exciting about disability and chronic illness and the life that we've lived means that we have this incredible strength and this incredible vulnerability. And as an actor, you really do need both, I think, personally. And for me, having one arm means that, it's my greatest strength and it's my greatest vulnerability. And I'm able to use that whenever I need. And there's people out there that, that won't come as naturally to them. So never see it as a disadvantage, because, having a disability, having an illness means that you've lived life in a different way. It means that your take on the world is different to others, and therefore you'll always take characters on in a different way. And that can only be an exciting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you mentioned that, because we'll always say that all the time with the charity, is that I'll always say that young adults with illnesses or disabilities are sort of the most deserving of all these different career opportunities, because they know how to face adversity and adapt the best way, because it's part of the day-to-day. You have to live with an illness. So kind of going into a career setting, that's something that will always sort of help suggest to them. And another one that actually I was given as a piece of advice when I was going into after graduating, and I had launched my charity a month after I graduated from my university, but I also was looking for a part-time job because I was running a nonprofit, not a business. So when it came to the financial, I wanted a little security. So when I was going in sort of that process of going on interviews, I was told by somebody else who had a chronic illness that was invisible, and mine teeters back and forth between visible and invisible, they said, well, you just need to learn how to read a room. And I was like, I don't understand, read a room. And they told me there's like this read a room effect where basically you kind of walk in and it's not first impressions, because I was so used to seeing the first reaction somebody had if I physically was looking ill that day. Mm-hmm. And you see that reaction and then I immediately would go on the defense. So they said, no, you have to give them about 10 to 20 seconds. And after that, now watch them and read that room 20 seconds after you've walked in and started talking. Because sometimes you'll see that they're still sort of looking, they're confused, they don't understand how to respond to you, they're asking different questions, which are framed because they think your health is making you an issue and not an advantage. So for them, they said, well, then those scenarios, you be a little more protective of your health and you don't discuss it as much and you only ask what you need. And they said in other times you'll see people 20 seconds later, you'll read the room and they're very open. It's as if you never talked about it. And they said in those people, then you can kind of own your health story in a different way because then they'll see it as an advantage. So for me, that was the biggest sort of tip I learned of sort of challenging that stigma of walking in a room was you should read the room, but wait the 20 seconds to read your room, because then you've given the shock value away of people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. That's a really good one to give out. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and then what about, would you suggest for young people that feel like oftentimes we'll hear when people want to go into the arts of any fashion that they sometimes will hit those like dry spells or hit a wall with jobs. So what was a way that you've sort of continued to motivate yourself while you're working?
I think someone once told me that, especially in the arts, but I think careers in general, but yeah, especially in the arts, it's like a mixing board. So, and you slide up different parts. So sometimes your performer and your acting side is, right to the top and your other sides are down. And sometimes you might have to flip those round and the performer might have to come down for a little bit and you might go and do some workshops. And that one might come down a little bit and then you might go and do some charity work. And I think it's just always thinking that don't ever live just for acting jobs, because if you do that, you're going to miss out on a lot of your life. You really are. And life should be enjoyed as often as you possibly can. So I think it's about don't only think you're living when you're on stage or on screen, you're living every other day as well. So just remember that it's not going to be every day of every week of every month of every year that you're going to be acting, because that's not how it works. So find other things that keep your fire lit, and remember that it's okay for some of them to go up and down at different times. And you'll kind of end up being able to find more of a beauty in each day, really.
Yeah, because one thing I always appreciated when you and I would speak is that when you were on Corey, that was a main focus, and then you were teaching drama at Fates Academy, and then you were doing a lot more with TripleC, and then now you were doing stage work. But you were always very proud of the work that you were doing at that time, no matter if it was I'm an actor on a stage acting. And that's something I really always appreciated, that you were very sort of proud of the work you were doing, no matter what type of work it was.
I think it's so important, even when not so good things happen, like what happened at the beginning of the year with my iPhone. You if something happens to you, you just have to work out how you're going to respond, because actually is all we have in life is our choice and our freedom of response.
Yeah. How
you respond to something is kind of the only thing that we have ownership of. So whatever it is you have going on, own it, absolutely own it, and just try as best as possible to see what the good thing is that could come out of it. And I know that's not easy. I don't want to sound like I'm preaching and saying, oh, you should always be happy.
Yeah.
Because of course, there's really dark days, but if you really can try to think, this is going to be part of my blueprint and what I'm made up of. And I want to be as proud of as many things that I've done as possible. So I'm going to try to find pride in everything that I'm known for. And I think that's why that's important.
Yeah, no, I really, really like that. And then that kind of stems into that idea that what would I like to describe calling you as a rebel game changer is that you really have fused that activism and acting career kind of together, not only because you're a working actress and you've co-founded with TripleC, but even outside of that, being an ambassador for us and the other charities that you've worked with. So what would be sort of the advice that you have of continuing to work in acting, but then also wanting to be an activist and sort of make the industry more inclusive too?
I think just remembering that it's not always big acts that you're doing that are changing someone's mind. I might be working with actors that have never worked with somebody with a disability before. Just by me giving them a few stories, just by me, just throwing a few little sentences out there about, look, this is the work we're currently doing as disabled artists and performers to break down barriers in representation. Each person you meet, you do have an effect on them. And I think that's campaigning in itself. It doesn't always have to be going out with big posters and stickers or spending lots of money on certain things. Just remember that campaigning and activism is simply just changing people's perceptions and minds, and you can kind of do that on a low-key basis every single day of your life. So for me, I just factor it into every single thing I'm doing. Each person I meet, if I'm on the train and I end up talking to the person sat opposite me, we'll discuss our lives and talk about everything, but I'll always make sure that I get in there, just because whatever walk of life they're from, if they own a business, I want them to be able to go away going, why haven't I ever thought about employing somebody with a disability? So it's just about, it might seem like sometimes you're doing really low-key stuff, but that doesn't matter. As long as you're changing people's perceptions, that's what's important.
Yeah, and I'll always even going off of that too, it's I was always very private about my health, and I had sort of the negative and the luxury of it being invisible and visible, depending on sort of the symptoms and flare-ups that my health and what parts of my body my neurovascular illness was affecting. So for me, I always said, after a few years, and it wasn't an easy process, I became very comfortable with a certain narrative of my health that I was comfortable with anyone. If I was giving a speech in front of all these doctors or at a shopping store and I would have temporary neuropathy in my leg and I couldn't move and my leg looked like I had no sensation in it, and people would then come over to help, there was a certain narrative I was always comfortable with, just the random strangers and people walking by. And then there's the personal story that's more for my family, my personal friends, my loved ones, that is more in depth. But I always, even going off of that there's a certain level of wanting to be an activist and then knowing what narrative of your health story that you are always comfortable sharing, no matter who you're speaking to. Yeah. And I think that's a good way to just end this segment and go off to one that's going to be a little more fun again, going back with Melissa. So we learned a little bit before that she has very interesting things in her purse, like sewing kits. So now we're going to talk about what she would add in a toolkit.
What's in your toolkit? What's in your toolkit?
All right, guys, this is our segment of What's in Your Toolkit. We love a good tip sheet and promotion of what's worked to make life easier, life more adaptive. Tip sheets are InvisiYouth's favorite thing. So with this, we go through our guests and pick out some of the top tips, I'm already confusing myself, tips and tricks and different apps that they would add to a toolkit to make life with an illness or disability easier, more adaptive, and especially when you're building a career with health struggle. So now that I've actually learned how to talk, I'm going to ask Melissa some questions. So what would be some tools? Obviously, as an actor, one thing you have to do is always have a lot of schedules for your jobs or for auditions and learning lines. So have there been any sort of basic tools or even apps that you've used to help with memorizing or even just organizing your schedule?
Yeah, so I'll be really, really honest on this one. I am 100% still going through how to accept the fact that I have pain days and I have a disability that, can make things a little bit harder sometimes. I'm really, really guilty of just pushing it so much and then being in so much pain. But one of my really close friends, she is fantastic. She's had she's a lot older, so her disability has, she's had it for longer than I have. And so we joke and say she's my access advisor, because she just kind of gives me tips. So I think my first thing would always be, you know, if you have friends that have a disability, I mean, her disability is completely different to mine, but you still have an understanding. So I think, you know, if you have friends that have an understanding of it, like always contact them to say, oh my gosh, this is happening. Have you got any tips? Because I think, you know, the people with disabilities in my life that also experience pain are just, I value their advice so much. So I think always befriend people that you think might be able to give you some tips on stuff like that, because that's really changed my mind. When it comes to acting, I think, so I bought a diary for the first time last year. I had never owned a diary because I always thought that if it was in my head, I had full control over it. And if I had it down on paper, suddenly it would leave my head, and then I have to rely on something that's you know, physical and in my hand. And used to make me really nervous for some reason. And then, you know, things started getting ridiculously busy, and I thought I actually do need to buy a diary. And I was sat with one of my best friends, and she said, You've planned your day tomorrow, she said, but you haven't put in breakfast, you haven't put in having a rest. And it was her that said to me one day, she was staying with me for a while, and I got up in the morning and I just opened my laptop and I started to go, and she said, you haven't even had breakfast. She said, you need to stop trying to change the world before you've even eaten. And so now what I do is when I'm writing in my diary for the day or for the week or whatever, I factor in breakfast, lunch, 20-minute mindfulness, I'd stand up. So if I know I'm going to have a meeting, every 20 minutes I set an alarm on my phone to stand up, because sitting down for too long, you can probably see me doing it now. I'm dropping on my right side. I drop, so the whole right side of my body, the muscles kind of get smaller and smaller. So setting alarms to get up every 20 minutes. So just factoring those things in and realizing that they're important, because I used to look at something like that and go, well, that's not important. I've got stuff to do. You know, I've got better things to do than look after my body. Yeah. And now I'm just realizing that you absolutely have to factor those things in and have complete ownership of it. I think I mentioned earlier about, you know, maybe not owning my own access when I was younger. And now I completely own it with OthelloMacbeth in the rehearsal process. You know, the first couple of weeks we did so much table work because we were uniting the play. So, yeah, I think owning everything when it comes to access. With OthelloMacbeth, we were sat around the table uniting lots, and I said I really need a big cushion to prop under me to keep me up. They had one delivered, they had it sent to the theatre. They knew that every 20 minutes I would probably get up and have a stretch. In the show itself, we have to climb ladders, and because we didn't have the set in the rehearsal room, in my head I was going, I can probably go up and down the ladder. I mean, they're 5 meters up. And I was going, I can probably do that like maybe 6 times in the show. And then in Tech Week, we got into the space, and I mean, the set is incredible. And they factored in some time for me to have a go on the ladders. And I went up and I went down, and the director just said, I need you to just be really honest. Like, you're not letting me down. You just need to be honest with me. And I just said, to sustain it for 6 weeks, doing a show for 6 weeks, I can probably do up and down once in the show. She was like, Melissa, that is absolutely fine. We'll just change some other things. And the beauty of it is that we've actually created like really wonderful, strong other moments that we wouldn't have got had I have not spoken out and changed it. Another one, when I was in Coronation Street, one of the first scenes that I did, Rana, who played the other character, she ripped my necklace off. And in the next scene, you're meant to see me putting the necklace back on. And I said to the director, I can't put necklaces on myself because obviously I only got one arm. And so we changed it that my fellow co-star Faye Brooks, Faye said, well, I'll put it on for you. And that ended up adding this entire beautiful moment where she was putting the necklace on for me. We wouldn't have got any of those things had I not have, 1, had a disability, and 2, spoken out about it. So owning your own access can actually make art forms in itself more beautiful. And that kind of links in with what I said earlier about, we're able to offer something different, and that's what's so beautiful, because for anybody else that wouldn't have happened. It just would have been the straightforward way. There might not have been as much kind of, subtext to it. So owning what you have to do to make your life easier is absolutely key. And I'm saying that so many times because I'm still learning it, so I'm trying to practice what I preach.
No, absolutely. And I love, because I have the same thing when it comes to like organizing my schedule, when it comes to lots of meetings and stuff. Like for this entire week, I'm in between Philadelphia and New York City, between speaking engagements and filming video podcasts, and then going to meetings for other programs. Yeah. So it is a big thing. I've actually had numerous times people say, I use Google Reminders quite a bit, because that allows me to have multiple timers, because I have brain fogging, so I forget. So if it was in my head on paper and in my phone, I will still forget why it's even there half the time. Yeah. So that's a big thing, is them just reminding me. You have to just like put in a note and just like it pops up once and just goes, take a break or walk around, because then I lose sensation.
And there's lots of great apps that have that as well. There's lots of apps now on the phone, and I think that they're really useful for anyone suffering with pain.
Yeah. So what about, because I know you're on the go quite a bit like I am, have been some like healthy snacks that you've learned to kind of take with you all the time?
Nuts. Because they're so useful, and they're so easy to snack on, and they give you so much energy. So yeah, for me, it's a mixture of all different nuts. They're my favorite.
Well, then I'll have to give a different one, because I have a nut allergy. So then for all of you with the nut allergies out there,
they're not much good if you have a nut allergy. I wouldn't recommend that.
It's always the good one. I've always wanted to be a vegetarian, and I was like, but I can't have nuts, so it seems a lot harder for me then. Yeah. So if you're like me and have a nut allergy, the one thing that I've even recently gotten introduced to was these chia seed pouches. That's like sort of, they look like little pouches with like a little spout on top, and it has like chia seeds mixed in with different fruits or vegetables, and that's been super easy because it's made with like a foil, so you can kind of fold it up and put it into any size bag, and that's been a nice little, and it's sometimes chilled, so it's a little refreshing, and it's been nice with fiber. Yeah, so I've been, I feel like such a health foodie person being like, chia seed pouches are fantastic, but it's one of the few health snacks that I've actually sort of consistently taken with me, because they don't take up much room, and it's easy, they don't crumble everywhere, so that's a big one that I've gotten used to. So what about for you, would you say some ways that you've best sort of workout tips and tricks that you've learned to stay in good health? Because obviously with being an actor and being in a stage show like you are now, your hours are like so crazy. So what are different things you've learned?
So I have a gym arm, which is an arm that I put on for the gym. I'm just looking at it now. It's in the corner of the room. And I have different attachments on the end. And one of them is for Pilates. And I would say that would be my go-to one if anyone can access the Pilates class. Just because of the focus on breathing, the kind of mixture between going your core strength is so important for so many reasons, to take pressure off your back and to kind of, really build on your core strength. So I would say Pilates classes are just, my favorite thing for being able to just build some stamina and work into them how long I need. Sometimes I can only do 20 minutes of a class, sometimes 40, sometimes the hour. And that's okay too with classes. Remember that you don't always have to be in competition with the person next to you.
Yeah. And special shout out to you and your Instagram. People can find that photo of you doing Pilates with your Pilates arm, and your captions are always my favorite thing to be told about. So I specifically, when you said I was looking at my Pilates arm, I went, oh, I remember that photo on Instagram. Yeah. I know a big one for me that's been helpful, and I've heard quite a few of our guys in the chronic illness and disability community is Tabata have a lot of different apps for timing. So that's like short interval training, and for them when they travel a lot, they can put it on their phone and it just times out their schedule quite a bit of like, even they can put in it's only 10 minutes or 20 minutes they have, or even like 8 minutes, and it's super fast, and it's a timer that goes off and it reminds you of different, and you just sort of figure out different workouts or different moves that work for you, whether you want cardio or strengthening, and they can do it on the go. I've actually have a couple Tabata timer apps on my phone too, which has been great if I'm even just sitting in my office, and it can go on for 8 minutes and I can just do some strengthening exercises even in my own work office for the charity.
That's great.
Yeah, so that one's been super helpful. I love the good Tabata apps on that one for sure. And then last one, what have been, obviously since you are in the acting industry, this one I'm curious about, there have been different like videos or apps for entertainment when you're either waiting on those days between auditions, or if you're have a late call or you're getting up early, that are good sort of like entertainment resources for you?
So, gosh, I'm really naughty. This is another thing I need to work on. Again, best friend, when she came to stay with me, she said, I'm going to sit down and watch a film. Do you want to come and watch it? And I was like, I can't, sorry, I've got loads of work to do. And the next night was the same, and the next night was the same. And she said, do you watch stuff? Do you sit and do you go on Netflix? And I was like, well, I have to like really, really persuade myself. And my partner, Matt, he's great at relaxing. He's so laid back. He's pretty much horizontal. And I'm not. I'm constantly like, okay, I have an hour. What can I do with that hour? I have to do work. And it's so important just to take the time to do that. So I am getting a lot better with things like, and also just to take some time from social media, because as a freelancer and as somebody in the arts, social media can be quite a big part of your life, your work life. And, it's just about going, I actually wrote that in my diary yesterday at 2:00. I put watch a film. Just I didn't end up doing it. But at least my first step was to start writing it in. So I am learning. So I'm a bit of I do enjoy Netflix. And I just think documentaries are my favorite. I think if you can get some documentaries up, they just, because then I feel like I'm not completely wasting my time because I'm learning.
You're
something
learning
new
something.
No, I think don't feel guilty for being able to entertain yourself. I need to stop thinking that each hour has to be filled with me working, because it doesn't. So Netflix for me is a great one, but if anybody listening to this has got any other great ones, then please let me know.
I know, I love a big one for me is because I have the same problem. Everyone who works with me always says that I will work the second I wake up. I will make everything portable and on the go to eat or do, because I can then sit and do work. And like you said, with the charity being for young adults, social media is a huge thing. So I'm constantly helping our social media volunteers, even though they're always laughing, going, that's why I'm here, is to help with Instagram. Why are you on it with me? But the big thing that I'll always do is that they even suggested when they're working, they'll go, if I just need a break, I just have different accounts on Instagram or different YouTube accounts that have short videos on it. And I was like, oh, that's it? So they went, I'm still working. I just pop over to a different account. I look at a couple, like the dodo I hear about all the time. I love the dodo because it's just fun little cute animal videos that are just entertaining. Or obviously this works with you being English. I love Premier League football. So being able to go to different teams that I'm a fan of and sort of go to their Instagram accounts if they have Insta stories or different video clips going up. That's been fun to just sort of be a quick sort of even 5-minute video entertainment for me while I'm waiting or doing something else, and then it can pop back. That's been helpful because it keeps me in the same sort of like account system that I'm in social media work, but it gives me a little break at the same time. So I always say, similar to you, like pick an interest. You love documentaries, and then that helps as well to sort of know different accounts. I took sort of one day on a weekend and just sort of searched and got myself a little playlist that's on my favorites on my laptop. Important. So that was like a big tip for me, was just sort of make my work break playlist sort of readily available. Absolutely. I love that. And I have to get into more documentaries. I feel like that will make me feel more worldly if I watch more documentaries. Okay, guys, we're going to now get into our last segment, which is In an Ideal World. All right, guys, within an ideal world, this is where we try to improve society, change stigmas, and make the world more inclusive. Those can be massive boulders to put up on your own. So with this segment, we go through talking with our guest about what would be different ideal scenarios and things they would like to eliminate in terms of stigmas, of building career paths with illness and disability. And I know for you watching on our YouTube channel, thank you. Give it a subscribe and a thumbs up. Melissa has a different background now because we're making sure that she is visible to all of you and charging that phone of hers so we can still chat. So Melissa's got a new background. She changed her set for all of you to prove that she's such a dedicated actress. That's basically what we did today. So now that we go into our first question, what would have been sort of for you as a young actor some nice motivation or tips to hear, just sort of starting out as an actress that had a disability or with an illness, getting into that industry?
I think I guess someone saying, just in this industry anyway, just keep going. Mm-hmm. Just keep going, because there are days that can be so difficult. There are days when you question why you did it. There are days when you think, is it worth it? Should I do something different? This is because, we're putting ourselves up to be judged basically every day. And so I think just to keep going, and on days where you don't feel great and you feel like maybe it's not going how you wanted, just to be really kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. I think it's so easy to really put yourself down in moments where you feel like you're not succeeding or you're not where you wanted to be. And I think, so for me, it's be kind to yourself, and also remember that you have no idea what is going on behind closed doors and what is going to happen tomorrow. You have absolutely no idea. With Coronation Street, I hadn't even auditioned for it. I'd been on the set and I'd had a few open auditions, but I hadn't auditioned ever for that specific part. I didn't even know that part was up for grabs. Mm-hmm. And I was actually in Santa Monica at the time because I'd won a fitness competition. And I got a phone call at like 2 a.m. from my agent to say, she just rang and she said, "Darling, I've got some great news. You've been cast in Coronation Street." And the signal kept going funny. It was a really weird signal. And she said, "Oh, darling, I can't hear you. I'll call you in the morning." And, the phone went dead and I just was kind of lay there. And firstly, she apologized because she forgot I was in America and it was a completely different time. And I lay there going, I don't know what's just happened. My little brother was with me at the time. And he was going, "I don't understand what's happening." And I said, "I don't know either." And she sent me this lovely email, and the subject line in this email, sometimes I still look at it now, it said, "Don't worry, darling, you're not dreaming." And I just read over it for ages, and she gave me the information about it. And, one of the reasons for that was that I had, these open auditions. So I'd met a lot of the casting department. Mm-hmm. I'd met some of the directors, and I just kept up conversations with them. They always said to me, keep us up to date with what you're doing. And if someone in this industry says to you, keep me in the loop of what you're doing, and you don't do that, you've just shot yourself in the foot. So, mm-hmm. Remember that keeping in people's minds is key. And you just never know what tomorrow is going to bring. So, I think my two are: be kind to yourself and remember that, the universe works in very miraculous ways, and we have no control over it. That can also be a really exciting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going off of even what you said with the different casting directors too, a big thing that I've even been suggested sort of on the non-acting industry is that if people do show an interest and they ask, let me know when you have different fundraisers or things coming up for the charity, or I work in publishing sometimes too, and asking about the work that we're doing there. People will let you know if you are being annoying and they don't want to hear from you anymore, or they want the emails to stop. I always joke, I'm like, people have no problem telling you if you're being annoying. So absolutely. So just
and also
do it.
If they're never responding,
Yeah. Exactly. So you were told keep you in the loop, and they keep you in the loop because a lot of times young people will say, especially teenagers or young adults will go, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't know how interested they are. I said, well, they asked. So then constantly show that you're interested in working with them, and eventually, similar to you, it does work out.
And make sure it's interesting things that you're saying. You know, obviously don't just ring them up to tell them what you had for dinner. But, you know, if you've got something really interesting that you think that, you know, this industry need to know about, you're in a new show, or, you know, when I moved from London to Manchester, I let all of the Manchester, you know, industry people know that I was moving, and just things that you think they're going to find interesting makes their job easier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we kind of touched on this earlier in a different segment, but I know this is like a big, important one for you. But what would be sort of why, in your way, you think it is super important that there is more, not only just representation of disability and illness on TV and film, but the accurate representation part, because that tends to be forgotten when a lot of people think, oh, we just need more representation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when we are represented on TV and film and stage, I genuinely think the treatment of disabled people and people with chronic illnesses will be, you know, so much better. We are still judged in not very nice ways. There's a real kind of unconscious bias that happens so often. You know, disability hate crime can be, you know, it's not long ago, I know it was one of its highest points. It can be, there's so much. I think what's difficult are that there are a lot of wonderful, good people in this world. So when you tell them, they find it really, really hard to believe. Yeah. But just because people find it hard to believe, it doesn't mean it's not happening. And I just think that the representation of disability and illness on our screens and stages will change the way that disabled people live in this world. I think it will up employment. I think that if you're, you know, portraying storylines with illness and disability in people's TV screens every day of the week, that will only have a positive effect, you know, on how society approach disability. And I think you're absolutely right about making it so that we own our own storylines. It's not just on screen. We have wonderful disabled writers, disabled directors. How about we start employing them a little bit more so that we can have ownership over our own stories? It might be that you've got a really interesting story to tell, but you're not in the arts, you're not a writer, you're not a director. In which case, I think we should start having events where we collaborate, people with disabilities that have got stories that need to be told with writers and directors. And the collaboration happens where their name is put on it, or if they don't want their name on it, fair enough, but where they have complete ownership over stories that are being told. So, you know, it's the same in companies when you have like diversity leads or disability leads. So often in companies, the person in charge of disability is non-disabled, and I don't understand that. Want to see don't do our job for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you touched on that too, because the big question we'll get is, well, is there really a difference between wanting having actors with illnesses and disabilities wanting to be up for every sort of role, and they can play any role regardless of their health struggles or disability, versus, well, I want to be able to be the one playing a character with a partial limb or playing a character with a chronic illness. And why does a healthy actor get to play that role when I could play that role? Because it's my own physical health. So I said, well, there's a difference, but then also it's just that there's a lack of the story on both ends, that the people developing stories, oftentimes there's nobody at the writing table that has that direct experience. It's, oh, well, my friend has a cousin who has this illness or disability, and then you think you know it. So a big thing, like you even said, is just on the behind the scenes side of it makes it more ideal, because it really is a domino effect for young kids being able to watch TV or film and see even just background actors accurately from everything from race, gender, sexual orientation, and disability, just sort of physically mirroring a population, that if they see it even in the background, that there's people walking around or in wheelchairs in a scene, it becomes sort of normalized in the back of their mind. So when they see somebody coming into a classroom that's a student, or coming into an audition that has an illness or disability, they've already been conditioned that it's common, so they don't have a surprised reaction to it, or then start to make assumptions, because for us, the big thing we always say is it's not a level of ignorance in a negative for a lot of people. Unfortunately, it's that there's an ignorance because it's something that makes them uncomfortable because they don't see it often. So it's making it more visible to them all the time, and then accurately being visible, because sometimes you always, and I think this would be something you would agree to as well, when you see movies or TV having characters or storylines with an chronic illness or disability, that's not a medical TV show, because yes, they're somewhat accurate, but sometimes it's not. But on that end, when they bring those characters in, you get excited because, okay, we're getting represented, but then you watch the storyline and you're going, I don't even know if there's a minority % of this population with this illness that actually feels this way. So that's a big thing, like you said, is just accurately casting, and then people working together to go, well, we'll bring this project forward and see, and bring healthy, able-bodied people in. So even for on that end, what would be sort of tips that you would give for like an ideal work setting of when you get to work with fellow disabled actors, or when you have to work with other healthy, able-bodied actors? Is there like a difference in the way you would make it an ideal work setting of working with both populations?
I think I think ideally there are a lot of people in this world that, in my eyes, should have unconscious bias training. I think that's a big one. I think that it should be made priority in most organizations now, whether it's in the arts or any organization, because it's huge, and so many people don't know they're doing it. So I think before you even get into the environment, unconscious bias training is a huge one that I think people should have. And also access awareness and attitudes training towards disability. But it's just about making an environment where I tell people all the time that it's not about equality, it's about equity. So for instance, I sometimes have to have extra physio sessions when I do theatre shows, because I'm very lucky and I get chiropractor sessions and physio on the NHS, and I'm so grateful for that. But when I'm doing shows, I can't fit those sessions around the show because it's the NHS. They have to give me when they can give me. And I can't have time off rehearsals to do it. So often a theatre will pay for you to have the physio and the chiropractor sessions that you need. And, there are still people out there that don't understand why we get that. They almost think that we're getting like an added extra and that everybody should be entitled to it. And what I say is, no, equality would be us all having the chance to have it. Equity is us all being at the same level where we can carry out our job. Someone might not need any chiropractor sessions or physio sessions to carry out their job. To make me the same level as that person, if I haven't had it for 4 weeks and I am, completely crippling over in pain, I need that in order to carry out my job the same as the person next to me. So I think it's about remembering that when people with disabilities or chronic illness have to have some extra things put in place, they're not added extras, they're not bonuses, they're not wonderful things that we're having. They're just making it so that we can do our job and carry out our job the same as everybody else. So it's less about sort of equality and more about equity.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's what we'll always say is, like, when it comes to that equality standing, is that there's physical equality, there's cerebral equality of going into a job, and to work with people that have illnesses and disabilities. When you have one, there is that sort of immediate nonverbal understanding of, I can just see how you're doing and I get it. So that works out very well. But then when you work with healthy and able-bodied people, a lot of times you're able to then make it even more inclusive, because then they're learning from you and then they can ask questions. And then I'll always make the joke to them when I would need more medical assistance, and they'll always say, well, you get extra breaks and I don't. I would say, well, there's things that you would ask for from a teacher or from an employer that I wouldn't ask for because I'm capable of it. My health doesn't interfere with that. But for you, it does. For your schedule, your lifestyle, it does. But just because it's my physical health and I ask up front, I may potentially need X, Y, and Z, and you don't have to because your setbacks are more spontaneous by life. It's the same thing. It's just I have my setbacks planned out already, where you don't. So that's the main difference. And kind of going off of that, sort of the last question I wanted to ask for you would be, how would you feel like if you were going to suggest to new young actors sort of coming up and actors working with you as well, getting into that career, how would you tell them to be more inclusive and sort of change that mindset with being a disabled actor, or even people who are healthy and able-bodied, and bringing them into different shows and plays? What would be some tips that you would suggest?
I think for actors with disabilities or illnesses, I think just being as honest as possible. Sometimes we worry that honesty will mean that we won't get a job. But do you know what? If we keep hiding stuff, it's not going to change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know one thing that I'll always say is to always project a confidence, even if you don't feel that confidence with your health yet. For me, it took many years.
Oh, my back. There we go.
Oh.
I think it's about cluing yourself up on the social model rather than the medical model. So I think, really understanding the difference between the two and saying, okay, I need to realize that this person might struggle with this, not because they have a disability or an illness, but because we haven't put something in place to make them able to do what they need to do. So I think it's about being open-minded. Unfortunately, you can't really teach open-mindedness, but what you can do is be really honest with everyone that you meet. And as I always say, leave a blueprint on them so that they can go away, and that might affect how they treat the next person.
Yeah, and I love how you said that too, because what I was saying before is that you have to sort of project that confidence with your health or disability, even if you don't feel it yet. For me, it took so many years to feel comfortable with my living with it.
Fake it till you make it, absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, it was just, I would project that confidence mostly because I was upset with sort of constantly being unseen or neglected in the work that I was doing as somebody with an illness, because you don't see them all the time. I wasn't walking into different work environments and seeing it. In my obviously owning a charity for illness and disability, I see it quite often now because it's the community we work with. But there was a difference in just going into other meetings and not seeing it. I would say just sort of, for us, it was having a confidence in not questioning your abilities with your health and just knowing that your illnesses and disabilities give you, like you said in the beginning, a very strong advantage in different ways, and it also makes you vulnerable in different ways, but owning that confidence, and eventually you'll start to feel that confidence if you keep putting that confidence forward over and over again. You'll start to then feel confident with what you're saying.
Definitely.
Well, Melissa, ending on that confident note between you and I, we just ended your episode of the InvisiYouth chat sessions.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely.
Of course. So I want everyone to be able to not only find you on all your social media outlets, but also give you another time to mention where OthelloMacbeth is going to be. I know you're currently in Manchester, but it'll be moving to London. So I'm going to let you talk about the show, where people can buy tickets, and then give your social handles so people can find you.
Brill, fantastic. So we are currently at Home Theatre in Manchester until this Saturday, the 29th. And then we open at Lyric Hammersmith on the 5th of October until the 3rd of November. So we're there for a month. If you go on the Lyric Hammersmith, got a poor connection.
Oh, there we go. Because I heard you mentioning going on the Lyric Hammersmith website.
Yeah, so go on the Lyric Hammersmith website, and that's where you can buy tickets. I think that's all for the show. Mm-hmm. I am on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I am Melissa Claire J, which is MELISSACLAREJ. And on Twitter, I am the exact same, but it's got underscores put in between Melissa and Claire and J.
Perfect. So we're going to have all of those hooked up, all of the links for the Lyric Hammersmith, so you guys in England, especially in London, can go and see Melissa in her show, and then find her on social media. As always, you guys know you can find InvisiYouth on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at InvisiYouth, and then find the InvisiYouth chat sessions on our YouTube channel for the visual show, at the InvisiYouth charity channel, and then on our audio podcast channels on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Castbox. There's plenty more, I'm assuming, but those are the main ones, and find the InvisiYouth chat sessions there. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like, 5 stars. 5 stars only works. We don't know if the other buttons work, just 5 and a thumbs up. And hit subscribe too, as well, so that would be fantastic. And I want to thank Melissa again for being our guest on this episode. And we will be seeing and hearing from all of you guys very soon when we have our next InvisiYouth chat sessions. Bye, everyone.